suppose it is an odd claim I'm trying to explore. A so-called obvious answer to my question is a resounding no. Nevertheless, the phenomenon of gym culture has piqued my curiosity. What's so peculiar to me is how widespread and ingrained going to the gym has become, at least in Western culture. A gym membership is what you get, along with a car, a latte, and debt when you join the quality of life movement. It is perhaps only rivaled by running culture, although the principles behind this too are parallel. The formulation of the title of this video as a question is not without purpose. Firstly, my question stands as a mere symbol of the dubious times we find ourselves in. Secondly, and more importantly, I am not here to preach profound truths, neither am I here to expunge faith. My intention is to ask questions, investigate, and in the meanwhile, take you along for the journey. We shall start with the surface of it all. The surface-level observation that raised this question in the first place was the embodied ritualism of the gym. A ritualism that, if viewed from an outsider's perspective, from a perspective of one who has never seen or been to a gym, is not much unlike than that of, for example, the ritualism of Mass. The biggest distinction being that the gym, akin to the general psychological shift in the West, a topic which I also made a video about, is much more individual-orientated than the aforementioned Christian Mass. Nevertheless, gym is still a ritual performed alongside like-minded individuals. It is a ritual that takes place at certain, usually predetermined times of the week. The rituals themselves are repetitive and shared among many. Think of the bicep curl or the deadlift. Now you might say, excellent job at observing. However, the same thing can be said about a great deal of human activities. Does that make them all religions? Perhaps, if one is to view any positive human activity as a manifestation of faith. However, that seems like an easy way out. Therefore, no, let's endure on and delve into the spiritual aspect of religion and see if we can find similarities. One of the necessary conditions for piety seems to be an object of worship, an ideal. From a highly abstract position, both the gym and religion seem to be in worship of the same ideal, perfection. However, the same can be observed about the general underlying human condition, therefore positioning the gym as an activity only stemming from the foundational faith of Western culture rather than being its own religion. Furthermore, when taking a closer look at the object of worship, the form of perfection differs greatly. Speaking incredibly roughly, in classical religions, people have faith in an omnipotent, eternal, creating perfection, simply defined as God. The gym's object of worship, the symbol, is the perfect body. Gym culture seems to go along with the materialistic, nihilistic shift in the collective unconscious of the West and go hand in hand with rationalism. Hence, the gym's symbol of worship being purely material, while religion stands in opposition and likely sees this as mere vanity. If one were to be less cynical, then what gym culture fundamentally worships is ultimate human health and well-being, nevertheless pertaining only to our earthly existence and embodying the spirit of longevity, youthfulness, and at best, the eternal struggle against death. I dragged you on long enough. Gym is no religion. It is, however, an attempt to compensate for a lack of one. Whether you see it as a companion for the celebrated narcissism of our culture, or a futile attempt to run away from death anxiety through idealizing the perfection of body, it is all despair, an expression of materialism. Gym rationally acknowledges our powerlessness before time and tries to push off the inevitable. It is a modern answer to the problem of existence. Here, I think it is important to admit that I'm also part of this gym religion to not give you the wrong impression of judgment. Anyhow, as I have critiqued, I wish to compliment as well. Even if one were to fully accept my critique, gym then becomes a false means to the right end endeavor. There's nothing wrong with having weekly rituals. It is also not wrong to spend time actively embodying the pursuit of perfection and trying to push your physical limits. Hell, even if it is done purely out of vanity, narcissism, or despair, it still propagates health and well-being, and at the very least, that is a step in the right direction. As a side note, resistance training is the only meaningful way to retain your intellect and slow down cognitive degeneration. Furthermore, it is beneficial as a meditative activity where one can take a pause during the day of earthly busyness and contemplate. At the end of it all, where else shall an everyday human amid all the noise find a place to truly wrestle with the limits of bodily existence? Gym culture is simply rational. It is not obvious to me that there exists a connection between this world and, let's call it, the ultimate truth, traditionally referred to as a higher power. However, we humans act and have acted since the dawn of consciousness that this connection exists. This belief is the basis of faith. We act out our beliefs rather than rationally state them. Anyway, if this connection exists, then there must be ideals or truths that are closer and ones that are further from this ultimate truth. However, contrary to many religious ideas, I believe it is of no interest at all to this truth if we follow it or not, if we are closer or further from it. It is only in our interest to be closer to it. Just as an elephant does not concern itself with the needs of the fly, so does truth or any ideal or higher power not care if we are any closer to it. Perhaps surprisingly, this is a thought of great relief to me. A sobering thought that takes nihilism into account while at the same time promotes voluntary responsibility and active wrestling with existence. I believe you can feel when you're getting closer to truth, when you're heading towards the right ideal. That incredible and oh so human bittersweet feeling of sadness that springs out of the depths of your soul when you're truly engulfed in the flow of existence, when you're truly happy being alive, yet somewhere deep down aware of your temporariness. In that moment, I believe, you realize that as a human you will never reach the ideal. The joyous moment will pass and never return. Neither will you. Our curse, joy, and purpose are to be constantly in pursuit, always wandering, always just out of reach. Even if we dare to step out of the shade to the sunlight, we're only able to feel the warmth. For not too long, though. Even if we stand unimaginably far from the source, it is still too much. We're always capable of feeling the sun's presence, yet never capable of truly looking at it. Only a glimpse. To not go blind. As is custom, I shall depart with a wonderful quote. The whole work of man really seems to consist in nothing but proving to himself every minute that he is a man and not a piano key. Fyodor Dostoevsky. Happy soul searching.